My name's Jeff Hoffman. I am the chairman of GEN. I'm also a longtime serial tech entrepreneur. I've been doing companies, building startups for my whole life. Along the way, we made every mistake you could make 3 times, at least. But in the process of that, we eventually figured out how to do some things right. And so several of the startups that I've been part of that were tiny little startups wound up turning into global companies and in fact even multi-billion-dollar companies. So that's the experiences we had with Priceline.com, with Booking.com, with Ubid.com. Afterwards is when people started asking me, what did you guys do so that you started with a little startup and it turned into something big? And so for me, I had to go back. By trade, I'm a software engineer. So I had to go back and reverse engineer that and say, what did work? So just so you guys will know, I am not a professional speaker. I'm an engineer. I'm not a teacher or an educator, right? I'm just a guy that likes to fix problems and build stuff. So the stuff that I'm telling you, that I'm going to share with you today, the one thing I can tell you that I do know, though, is this is the stuff that worked. Okay, so that's why I'm sharing it with you. When I was building companies, there were a lot of days I was thinking, I feel like I'm about to make a mistake. Somebody knows I'm about to make the mistake because they made it. Why aren't they telling me to stop? Or somebody knows how to do this right. Why aren't they telling me? So my personal commitment was for the rest of my life to try to share everything I know with as many people as I can in hopes that whatever your dream is, we were very blessed that we were able to achieve the dreams we had and build the companies we wanted, including failures along the way. But my pledge was to share that. So I'm going to share with you things we learned along the way and the stuff that worked. And it is a combination of not just companies we built, but you'll hear stories of other people. I realized that any time I got a chance, I still do this, any time in my life I got a chance to be around somebody who did something I wanted to do, I made sure I was like a sponge, pen in hand, notes in hand, and ask a lot of questions. So I'm sharing things that worked, not just from our experience, but from spending the last 20 years studying success. With the question, right, the world's most successful entrepreneurs, what did they do that I'm not doing? So that's what we're answering today. So let's just jump in about achieving explosive growth. So this is going to be focused on building your brand and selling, right? And so frequently when companies aren't making it, one of the things I notice, and I'm going to overstate this on purpose, but I'm amazed at how nobody really knows how to sell anything. And I'm overstating it, but I'm shocked at the number of times really good ideas and really good products never got to see the day of light because they weren't selling it right? They did not package and position their company and their product with the right message to the right people. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How do you package it? And what we're trying to hit is hypergrowth, the acceleration. That's what we're here to talk about, right? That's why we'll talk about brand today. Each of the companies I told you about hit a point where suddenly our growth went nuts and it just took off and grew like crazy. And so these are the things we're talking about, the things you have to get right. I don't care what business you're in. If you want explosive growth where your company takes off, these are the things you got to get right. So let's start with the first one. The first one I want to tell you, and I'm sorry there aren't more chairs. I apologize. We have a lot of people standing. I don't think we can have people sit on other people's laps. I'm pretty sure that doesn't work, but it would have worked actually technically, just not socially. So here is the first one, which is to win a gold medal at one thing. Too many companies, too many people that I see are trying to be we're the one-stop shop for everything our customer needs. Okay, now remember the question that I'm answering. The question is, how did the companies that went from nothing to these multi-billion-dollar companies, right, as crazy as it sounds for a startup like all of yours, our company Booking is worth I feel bad when I say this. It's worth $170 billion today, and it was a scratch startup. So that means somewhere this company did something right. So here's one of them, which is win a gold medal at one thing. I hear these things in the entrepreneurial world. Either people tell me we're the one-stop shop, right? We have everything our customer needs. Or they tell me if they're not doing the one-stop shop, they're talking about multiple streams of income. Now, all those things are right, and you can have a great life. But that's called a lifestyle entrepreneur. You run 3 businesses, or you have a business that sells a bunch of products. You will have a very nice life and have a nice living. I'm not answering that question. I'm answering, how did the world's biggest multi-billion-dollar ones get there? And guess what? They didn't do that. Okay? They won a gold medal at one thing. Let me tell you the story of really where I learned that. And by the way, the reason that I use a gold medal analogy is because there's never an athlete that wins a gold medal in swimming, and then a gold medal in track and field, and then a gold medal in volleyball. Why? Because it's so freaking hard to win a gold medal in anything that it's not 3 times harder to win 3, it's 3 million times harder, right? Business is not different. For you to be gold medal successful with a product, you can't split your time 3 ways on 3 product lines. So back in the early internet days, we used to all talk because there was not very many of us building companies. So I used to talk to these 2 guys, Jeff and Pierre. They were building this thing called eBay. And there was this other guy named Jeff who was building this thing called Amazon. It's funny because back then I was doing a news interview. And they said, what do you need to have to be successful on the internet? And I said, apparently just someone named Jeff has to be on your team because it's working out pretty well for the Jeffs right now. Bezos, people forget this. For almost 7 years, you could only buy a book. You remember that? Jeff, I said to him, what's your plan? He said, one day Amazon will be the marketplace of everything. But the path to getting there, as he said, right now I want to be the best damn bookseller on the planet. He had the discipline to win a gold medal in something he knew. And when I asked him about books, he said, we know books. This is our gold medal product. This is the thing we know we can crush. So you know what we were doing at the time? And by the way, I don't think I do. I remember Tony Hsieh at Zappos telling me, one day we'll sell a lot of things, but right now we just need to be the best damn shoe seller on the internet. So you already know what the lesson is. You need to be the best damn something. That is so hard that you can't do that with 3 different things. When companies come to me today and say, will you help me grow? I have to tell them, yes, but we need to shrink you first. Because I'm going to ask everybody in this room, if you have more than one product, you know in your heart what your gold medal product is. If I asked you what's the one you really know you can crush and win at? So you know what we were doing in travel? We were selling it back then. And for those of you who don't know, Priceline and Booking are the same company. In America, they don't know that because both ads run. But anyway, early on in travel, we were selling cruises. We were selling vacations. We were selling hotel rooms. But after Jeff said, I'm just going to be the best damn bookseller, right? And 7 years later, when he did that, what did you and I say? We said, we begged him to sell us something else. How would you like to have a pull strategy instead of a push strategy? Most companies are pushing a product out there and begging you to buy it. You and I were begging Bezos to please sell us something other than a book. That's a pretty good position to be in. Why? Because he earned his gold medal in books. We loved doing business with Amazon when they sold only books. So we were actually selling, we're the one-stop shop for travel. Cruises, vacation planning, hotel rooms. But Jeff's advice, I remember thinking to myself, what is our gold medal product? You know what it is? It's hotels. We know hotels better than anybody. We have relationship hotels. We know the technology. We know the consumer. That's our gold medal product. So we actually stopped selling everything else, right? We pushed all that back, got out of vacations and cruises, and put all of our effort, all of our brain power, all of our money, all of our marketing on our gold medal product. Today, this company is the world's largest seller of hotel rooms, and it only has one product. You do not have to solve everybody's every problem to hit that growth. This company does $20 billion a year in sales. I think not even the gross, the net profit is over $3 billion a year, and it only has one product. That's the gold medal. If you see a commercial today, airlines and rental cars are still on there, but what are the commercials? Only one product, our gold medal product. Every commercial is about hotels. So that's my first lesson to you. Quit trying to solve every problem for everybody. Pick a gold medal and ride that. I was recently, by the way, with the family that created Adidas, right? And guess what he did? He said, we're just going to sell the hell out of this shoe until everybody knows us. And then now they sell all kinds of sportswear, but that's not how they got there. That's lesson number one, is focus on your gold medal. Now, I want you to think about this. I want you to find your gold medal talent, and let me explain what that is. You need to assess, for you as a person, or you as a company, what is the thing, what is your real talent and skill? Let me make that clearer with an example. One day somebody came to me and he said, so you're a travel agency? I said, we're not a travel agency. He said, dude, you sell travel. And I said, but that's not what we do. And so I went home thinking about it. You know what we are? We're an algorithm company. Do you know why Booking.com's in 190 countries? Because the algorithms, which today would be called AI, the algorithms that optimize the yield for a hotel and get the most revenue out of every room every day are not humans. They're intelligent algorithms that are learning and updating and assessing the entire market in seconds. It's the quality and sophistication of our algorithms. Our most valuable people at our company were not travel people at all. They were algorithm designers. That's how we built this multi-billion-dollar company. Our gold medal talent is algorithms. Do you know why I want you to know that? Because that's your North Star. When somebody comes to you and says, we should sell blank, people said to us, you guys should sell luggage for the trip. Does it take an algorithm to sell luggage? No. Then we're not interested. Why? Because we're not going to be the gold medalist. If you're doing anything that does not require your gold medal talent, let someone else do it, because you'll be average. Pick the gold medal talent. By the way, I asked Bezos this one day, and you know what their answer is? Their gold medal talent was never books, guys. It was delivery. Our gold medal product is hotels. Our gold medal talent is algorithm. Amazon's gold medal product was books. Their talent was delivery. That is why they were the first company to experiment with drones. That is why Amazon created Amazon Prime and same-day delivery. That is why they're figuring out how to send payloads to space with Blue Origin. When they bought Whole Foods, my question was, you're interested in groceries? And Jeff's answer was no. We're just going to be the first company to figure out how to deliver perishable goods successfully. That's why they bought a grocery chain, to solve the delivery problem. If it doesn't require delivery, they don't do it. Okay? So your gold medal product and your gold medal talent, focus, double down, triple down on those. Right? Our product was hotels. Our skill is algorithms. We write algorithms to sell hotel rooms. If it doesn't require that, we'll let somebody else do it. But if it does require that, we are going to win. Not only is the company the world's largest company, but we're actually, I think the next competitor in the space is Expedia, and Booking is 10 times larger than its nearest competitor, because we stay focused on what we're good at and what our gold medal is. Those are the first two things for you to achieve explosive growth. Now I want to talk about shaping a brand. I just was recently with the Chick-fil-A is still family owned. And so I just posted something the other day with Dan, Kathy, with the family that owns Chick-fil-A. But they've done a pretty good job of shaping a brand, right? Everybody gets what their brand's about. But let me explain to you why brand is so important. Marketing is linear. Brand is exponential. And let me explain that, guys. Marketing, let's say that I have a consumer site and I drive 10,000, I have a marketing budget. My marketing budget drives 10,000 people to my website. 1,000 of those people engage. So I have traffic and then I have engagement. 1,000 of them look at my products, 100 of them buy. So I have 10,000 people on the website, traffic. I have engagement of 1,000 of them, and I have conversion of 100 of them. And so now we decide we need to sell 200. So how do I go from 100 sales to 200? I double my marketing budget. I drive 20,000 people, 2,000 engage, and 200 of those people buy. B2B is no different, right? Back when we were talking to hotels, so we have sales teams. Our sales teams buy airline tickets. They go out and visit hotels. They book meetings. Let's say they book 30 calls to get 6 meetings to close 2 sales, but I need to double my sales. So I get more salespeople, I buy more airline tickets, I go to more sales pitches, and I double. That's all linear, guys. The key to explosive growth and where brand matters is this. It's when the tipping point is when your sales go from outbound, which is everything I just described, to inbound. And let me explain what that looks like. We're sitting in the office one day, and I happen to be sitting with salespeople, and the phone rings. And the front desk is like, it's a hotel chain. It's a small regional hotel chain. They want to talk to you. And I take the call, and my salespeople there, and it's XYZ Hotel Corp, and I'm hitting mute and saying, whose customer is this? And the whole sales team is like, we never heard of them, right? And I'm asking the guy, I'm sorry, who is your salesperson? And they said, none of you. And I said, well, why are you calling? And he said, because I'm trying to figure out how to give you my money. He's like, we just want to sign up. I said, wait, we've never spoken to you. Nobody here has given you a pitch, but you're trying to give us money. And he said, yes. That is the day that explosive growth happens. And you know what started happening? That we'd wake up in the morning and we would have new customers that we never called on. Marketing didn't do that, brand did. And I'm about to explain how to do that in a minute here. Our brand started to be resonant in the marketplace, and your explosive growth happens when your calls start coming inbound all of a sudden because people are reaching out to you. What we wound up doing was we went back to the website and we put a thing on the front of the website that said, sign yourself up. I was like, that's a pretty good business when you can go to the beach and your company's an electronic cash register that's just going ka-ching, ka-ching, because people are signing themselves up and booking. That's where you're trying to get. So what I'm telling you is marketing is a long, slow, expensive burn compared to brand. Brand is how you get there. So let me tell you the first part of brand that you need to solve. And the world's best brands are an answer to a question that their customers have. So my question to everybody in this room is, what question are you the answer to? Okay? Because you build a brand by knowing what question. And I'm going to tell you again the story of who taught me that. I was spending the day at this time back then with Fred, the guy that created this little company. In fact, the reason this is kind of dirty and roughed up is because it's really old. It's one of his original ads. So I was spending the day with the creator of FedEx, and I was asking him his keys to success. And he said this. He said, Jeff, right now there's somebody sitting in their office asking a question that I'm the answer to. His question was, how do I absolutely, positively get this document there by tomorrow morning? This contract's critical. How do I absolutely, positively get this document overnight? So who remembers that? That was the first ads FedEx ever ran. Their ad was when it absolutely, positively has to be there overnight. So you have to ask that question, which is, what is my customer? What question are they answering? By the way, when at the beginning of Priceline, our business was auctioning off. It was name your own price, if anybody remembers that. We auctioned off empty hotel rooms. So guess what? We had 2 sides to our market. Somewhere in a hotel that has 100 rooms and can only ever sell 90 of them, somebody in revenue management or some hotel owner is sitting in their chair asking this question, man, how do I get rid of these empty hotel rooms? Okay, so guess what our marketing campaign, our brand was? Trying to get rid of your empty hotel rooms? So someone sits up and said, oh my God, yes, I was just thinking about that. That is your brand, is the answer to that question. You know what the consumer side was for us? It was people that actually was college students. The question for the college kid was, how do I get a hotel in Florida on spring break when I only have $60, right? Their parents wouldn't give them more money. So our marketing campaign was, wish you could go to Florida for $60. We are the answer to a question. You need to know what question you are the answer to. By the way, it doesn't matter if the product is you. If you're a consultant, you're a speaker, someone is sitting in a chair right now asking a question. Your brand has to deliver the answer to that. So let's refine that even a level deeper. This thing that, a lot of these are just terms, my terms, your brand asset. So I have another question for you guys. Not only what question are you, but let me tell you the problem that I'm addressing with this brand asset. When people market, the human intuitive intention is to try to give me all the reasons to buy your product, right? You say, and it's fast, and it's easy to use, and it's this, because you think the more things that you tell me, right, the more likely I am to buy all the great products. But research has shown a really important fact that I want you to all think about. The truth in sales, and it doesn't matter if your product is B2B and you're selling it to the VP of finance, or it's B2C and you're selling it to a college kid. Doesn't matter whether you're B2B or B2C. In either case, it's a human being with a decision process. And this is what research has shown, that people actually wind up, I'm going to give you an illustration of this. People actually wound up buying your product for one overriding reason. Even though you told them 10 reasons they should buy it, there was one thing that really closed the deal. So I'm going to give you a way to think about that. If I was to ask everyone in this room to give me one and only one reason I should do business with you. You can give me one reason to buy your product. The one thing that you pick, the one most important reason to buy your product, that to do business with you, that one thing is called your brand asset. Again, that's just my term for it. So think about that all. You should be able to answer the one, you only get to pick one most important reason. I'm going to give you an example. But by the way, I got a chance to spend an entire day with Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart. And he's one of the people, let me tell you what Sam said to me. He said, Jeff, he said, have you ever seen a Walmart ad that said, you'll be amazed at our high quality products? I said, no, sir. And he said, have you ever seen a Walmart ad that said, come in for our spectacular customer service? I said, no, sir. He said, we didn't promise you any of that. He said, the only thing I'm promising you at Walmart is, go to a Walmart. It says always low prices everywhere on the wall. He said, I'm giving you the one real reason you came to Walmart. I was in a Walmart one day, and I was walking down the aisle, and this woman, customer, was walking, and there was a Walmart employee. She was standing there in the blue Walmart apron on her phone. And this customer walked up, and she said to this young Walmart employee, she said, excuse me, can you help me find something? And the Walmart employee actually said, can you not see that I'm texting right now? And the woman looked at me like that, and the employee shook her head and walked off. And I said, ma'am, with all due respect, I said, did you actually think someone in Walmart was going to help you make your purchase? And she said, no. She said, I don't ever even see them in the aisle. And I said, then why do you come to Walmart? And she said, because I need light bulbs, and this is the lowest cost place to buy light bulbs. That's the brand asset, the one reason. Now, I also did a little consulting gig for those of you who know this store, for the Nordstrom family. And I'll tell you the difference of their brand asset. I'm walking through Nordstrom's one day, and I'm humming a song. I'm buying my sister a sweater for her birthday. And I'm humming a song I don't even like. And I'm like, wait, why am I singing this song? And I realized, I turned around, and in the middle of women's clothing, there's a man in a tuxedo and white gloves playing the piano. And I was like, I stopped. I said, you're playing the piano in the middle of women's clothing? He said, yeah, you're at Nordstrom. And I said, can I ask you a question? And he said, what? And I said, who is paying you to play the piano in the middle of the Nordstrom's women's section? And he pointed and he said, that sweater you're buying is paying me. And I looked at the price and I was like, oh my God, I'm not trying to buy the store, just trying to buy a sweater. And he said, do you think you could buy the same sweater for less somewhere else? I said, yes. And he said, but you came to Nordstrom for something different. He's right. Nordstrom doesn't advertise sales and discount prices. They advertise the fact that there's a dude playing the piano, and two girls came up to me and said, tell me about your sister and we'll find the right birthday present for her. That ain't happening in Walmart. Okay? These companies know what horse they're riding in the race. So what I'm telling you is stop trying to tell me all the great things about your company and pick the greatest one. That is the brand asset. That brand asset needs to be three things. It needs to be the single most distinguishing thing about you. Okay? At Priceline, when we were doing what I told you guys about, you know what it was? It was the name your own price. Our question was, how would you like to name your own price for an airline ticket at the beginning? Not one person said, no, don't worry about it, we'll pay whatever they want. And not one person said, oh, we do that anyway. Every person said, wait, what? So your goal with your brand asset is to get a wait what? Okay? You're still going to get to tell them the other things about you, but your brand leads with this single most distinguishing thing about you that gets people to say, wait, what? I want to hear more. It not only needs to be distinguishing, and I'm going to tell you how to find it in just a minute here, but it needs to be memorable. It needs to be the thing that people can turn to their friend. Absolutely, positively, overnight by FedEx was memorable. People would make jokes about, right, when it absolutely, positively, whatever. We could remember that. And last, it needs to be powerful. It needs to be the thing that people care about. Quit marketing something that you think they care about. Find out the real reason they bought your product. So I'll give you a homework assignment that I love doing. I always tell people that have an existing business. I tell them, I want you to send a message to 10 people. Well, if you're a consultant, if you're a business, product, services, whatever. You send a message to 10 customers and ask them to give you, this is important, one and only one reason they did business with you. Not before the sale, after they bought. Say, can you do me a favor? Can you tell me what's the real reason you bought my product or you hired me? And here's what happens when we do that. 8 out of 10 people are going to give you the same answer, but this is my favorite part. 9 out of 10 times when I look at your marketing, that's not even the thing you were pushing. So let me give you a real example of that. This manufacturing company calls me, and they say, Mr. Hoffman, I consult to a limited number of companies a year. This was one. He said, Mr. Hoffman, we make TV mounts. That's the mount that goes on your wall to hang your big screen TV. And he said, we sell them on the internet, B2C. And we're not really growing. We're kind of maxed out. And he said, we pitched to Walmart. And Walmart said, no thanks, we already have a lot of TV mounts. So we pitched to Target stores. And Target said, we'll give you a run. So he was all excited. He said, Jeff, my business is going to take off. We're in Target stores now. Some months went by, and his business didn't take off. And he said, how am I on the shelves of Target? And I'm not rich, right? He said, why didn't this work? And I said, I'll tell you what. I said, here's what we're going to do. I said, first of all, show me your marketing. This is his marketing. It is the human instinct to tell me all the reasons to buy this one. And on the package, it says, our TV mounts are easy to assemble, they're lightweight, they fold up when not in use, they're competitively priced, and they're made out of the same steel they make aircraft out of. That's all the reasons to buy it. I went on his website, and it said, why should you buy our TV mount instead of everybody else's? It said, because they're easy to assemble, they're lightweight, they fold up, they're competitively priced, they're made out of aircraft steel, yet they weren't selling. So I said, here's what we're going to do. And this is something I just posted about with the Chick-fil-A guy, but I encourage you to do. I actually go change clothes, and I go to where my customers are, and I don't tell them I'm the CEO. In the travel days, I used to change into jeans and tennis shoes, and I used to go to grocery stores, push a cart around for 5 hours, and talk to all the moms in there about the family vacation. They did not know I was a CEO. They don't know I have a company. I just wanted to engage people outside of the sales cycle to get real feedback. So I said, meet me at Target. We're going to spend the day in Target just dressed like shoppers. So we stood along that wall and that row where all the TV mounts were. And every time that somebody actually picked his, I stopped them and I said, oh, hey, I just bought a new TV. I'm looking for a wall mount too. And I said, why did you pick this wall mount? And remember, the package said, lightweight, easy to assemble, folds up, competitively priced, and made out of the same steel as aircraft. I'm going to tell you what happened. We stayed there until we got 9 people to buy it. 9 out of 9 people, despite all that on the package, held the package up and said, this is a quote, they said to me, I don't know what the hell aircraft steel is, but I want that. 9 out of 9 people. I said, really, dude? Because on surveys, you said price was most important and no one bought the lowest priced product. You know why? He said, man, that TV is the most expensive thing in my apartment, in my dorm room. If that steel is what they use for aircraft, I want that holding my TV up. And so you know what we did? We went home and we changed the package to that. In giant letters across the side, we wrote, the only television mount made from the same steel they make aircraft out of, and we sold the crap out of it. Okay, not by selling 10 things, by finding the one most distinguishing reason to buy my product. By the way, on the back of the package, later they will find out that it folds up and it's lightweight and the price is okay. But quit trying to sell everything. Find your brand asset by asking people why the real reason they bought you. I'll tell you what, it had a funny ending because one day he calls me all excited, can you jump on a Zoom? And I said, okay, what's up? And I jump on a Zoom and it's Walmart procurement. And I'm like, I remember meeting you back when you told us, no thanks, we don't want to buy in your wall mounts. And I said, what can I help you with? And they said, yeah, we have this problem. And I said, what? And they said, people keep walking into Walmart and saying, do you have that thing that's made out of aircraft steel? And they said, we like to place a large order. That is brand. So now what you're trying to get is people are sitting around. Remember, it's the question. And now they're sitting and they're saying to their friend, the question they're asking is, what's the best mount to hang a TV on my wall? And you want people saying, oh, it's the aircraft steel one. Oh, it's the name your own price one, whatever it is. I did an event with Jimmy John, with this guy, if you know his product. He and I were judging a pitch competition. And his thing, bless you, his thing was freaky fast. Their commercials don't tell you that their sandwiches taste great. Their commercials don't tell you whether they're high nutrition. They might be, but their brand asset is, if you're hungry now, call us because we're freaky fast. If you haven't seen a sandwich delivery commercial, the guy's on the phone and he's saying, and I want Swiss cheese and I want mayonnaise, and then his doorbell rings and he says in the phone 1 minute and he goes to the door and they're delivering a sandwich. And he's like, wait, how did you, their thing is freaky fast. They know their brand asset. So when you ask, a lot of times, when you ask people, why did you order your sandwich from Jimmy John's? They said, because I want it right now. What is my question to you is, what is your aircraft steel? Okay, you need to know your aircraft steel. I love it when companies around the world will call me one day and they say, we figured out our aircraft steel. That is the real reason people do business with you. That is the resonant thing that makes people walk into Walmart and say, do you have that aircraft steel thing? That's how you get inbound, right? The message out there was, people would be sitting there saying in our business, how do you get rid of empty hotel rooms? And like, oh, get rid of empty hotel rooms. That's our message. That was our brand. When you want to get rid of your empty hotel rooms, when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight, people started calling us, signing up, and we didn't have to do any sales work. That's when you achieve explosive growth. I want you to also think about another exercise, which is, I noticed that the best companies in the world have a personality, a brand personality. Again, that's just my term here. But I want you to think about the personality of your company, and I'm going to give you an exercise to do, but I'm going to tell you why it's so important. Your brand personality is what helps build your brand out there in the world. For those of you who were here yesterday, when I was talking about talent and I was talking about culture, part of our brand personality that I always enforced on my people that I mentioned yesterday is that we treat every human being with the same level of dignity and respect, right? You talk to the cleaning lady the same way you talk to the CEO, or you don't work for me. If you can't figure out why that's important, you definitely don't work for me. That's part of that's our value system, but I didn't realize it was part of our brand until I mentioned this the other day. We lost a giant contract. I'll tell you guys at the time it was Procter & Gamble, my biggest customer. And we violated a contract, and they literally called, and I'm about to tell my employees we're going to cut back on expenses. This is going to hurt. We're losing our biggest customer because we screwed something up. But when they called and they said, technically, you just lost this contract. And their CFO said, but all of my team came to me and said, don't fire Jeff's company. And I said, why? We screwed up. We legitimately violated the contract. And he said, right. And he said, but the way you guys treat us is like no other company. That personality is part of our brand. He said, everybody wants to do business with you guys. We like the way you treat other people. We like the way you treat us. And we wish all vendors were like you. So after our contract violation, we got a 3-year extension because management went and asked people, what do you think of this company? And they said, we'd rather do all our business with them. We had no idea that the time we took to create a personality for our company resonated out in the world. We're the brand of it. By the way, I'll give you a really quick example of that. I was testing this one day, and I handed 5 people out in the front row a sheet of paper that had a quote by some business, a CEO. And I said, who said this? And all 5 of them said, Jeff, there's literally no company name, no people's name, and no industry. How would we know who said it? And I said, just guess from the quote. Tell me who you think said it. All of them, this is amazing, all of them said, was it the Ben & Jerry's, the ice cream company? And I said, why do you think that? And they said, because this sounds like them. Do you know what? I had just come back from Vermont from Ben & Jerry's headquarters. It was them. That is a personality. I asked people in the audience, I said, what do you think a meeting is like? I just came back at Ben & Jerry's. They're like, we don't know. We've never been there. I said, what do you think a meeting is like? And people said they're wearing like lumberjack shirts and boots and the meeting is outside at a pit. I said, oh my God, that is actually right. Our meeting was outside on a table under the sun in the forest, basically, in Vermont. How do you know that if you've never been there? Because their company has a personality. That resonates. Think about these companies, right? There are people that know that some Google offices have slides and ball pits. You've never been there, but you know that. Their personality is so well defined that they have a verb, being a Googler, right? There are movies. The Intern was made about working at Google. That's pretty good personality, people. So I'm going to give you an exercise for how to do that. I do this with every one of my companies. I guarantee you, you will learn a lot doing that. I take my team into the room and I ask this question. Take a blank whiteboard and do this. If your company was a human being, who would they be? Draw your company as a human being on the board. And so to give you an example, by the way, for people that have seen the Priceline commercials, right? And the spokesperson is Captain Kirk. It's William Shatner from Star Trek. But the way that comes about is sitting in a room and saying, if we were a human, what would we be? Well, first of all, we would not be 19 because we're travel. A young person hasn't seen the world. So we're probably a little older, maybe 50, because we've traveled, right? So we're writing on the board, right? We're a person that has traveled the world. And actually our marketing people are writing traveled the universe, right, as a joke, right? So we're a little bit older, we've traveled the universe. What else if we were a person? And we said, well, we're a leader. This is a person that boldly goes, right? We're a leader. And somebody wrote up there, captain of industry, right? And someone said, what else? Well, I told you our algorithms are very high tech. So guess what else we are? We're a super high-tech company. So somebody wrote on the board, we're a space-age company as a joke. You can already see where this is going. And then one of the things we wrote is we have a cheesy sense of humor. I don't know if any of you were at our event last night, but I hosted it. I had a script this thick, and I never actually opened the script the whole time. I was just kind of winging it all night. That's actually our style. We don't take ourselves too seriously, and we never will, okay? So we have a cheesy sense of humor. When we're done, someone in the room said, oh my God, we are Captain James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise. So who does the commercials for Priceline? Captain James T. Kirk of the Starship Enterprise, the actor who played that for all those years. That's a personality. One of the people that really taught me that was this man. And by the way, If I took his name and picture off and said, what's a CEO that might say, screw it, let's just do it? A lot of people would guess Branson. But I do remember a time he and I were doing a photo shoot, and a time where I made a joke about his long hair. And he said, I can't cut my hair, it's the brand. And he said some interesting things to me, which you might notice from a picture. When we were doing these photos, he wanted to go outside, and they said, it's kind of sunny and a little breezy. And he said, I know. Do you know why he wanted to do that? Because when you see a picture of him, and by the way, he pointed out to me, he said, Jeff, I'm usually dressed like I just came into the beach for this media appearance. He said, you will notice my shirt is usually unbuttoned a little bit because I live on an island. He said, my hair is long and flowing in the breeze. And he said, sometimes, and I love this, I want you guys to pay attention to this, sometimes instead of looking at the camera, he said, I am gazing up into the warm Caribbean sun saying, don't you wish you were here on the islands with me? That's brand brilliance. He looks like he's living the good life on the beach. I tested this another day. I gave people in the front row, I gave them a sheet of paper. On there were 2 flights, New York to London. One was American Airlines. The other was Virgin Atlantic. They were the exact same flight, the same time, but the Virgin one was more expensive. And I said, circle the flight, it's your money. Circle the flight you want to take. All 5 of them circled Virgin Atlantic. I said, it's more expensive and it gets there at the same time. And they said, I know, but it sounds like it's a lot more fun. Brand brilliance. I said, just so you know, Richard Branson's not on every flight. And they're like, I know, but it sounds fun. If you've ever taken Virgin Atlantic, some of them have a bar and a little beach area. It actually is more fun. That is the brand. He wants you to think he's enjoying the island life, and if you really cared, you'd spend your money to be here with him. That's a brand personality. I want you to do the same thing. Draw your company as a person. You will learn a lot. And then make sure that that personality is your brand voice, meaning every email, every marketing copy, the way your company speaks to people, right? So for us, we're able to go back and say, would Captain Kirk really speak? Does he even use words like that? No, so our company shouldn't either. That's the Ben and Jerry's feel, right? Companies with a personality, they live that, and you get to know them, and it helps their brand grow because people say, you must be talking about Ben and Jerry's. That is your goal, is to build a personality that is so recognizable to the marketplace. So I kind of want to back up a little bit, and then I'm just going to close with one piece of advice here. Again, what we talked about was finding your gold medal product. If you are selling 3 or 4 products, you know in your heart what your gold medal is. Find your books, find your hotel. Instead of dividing your time and your money 3 or 4 ways, put it all on your gold medal product. And all I'm telling you is, I've been studying this for 20 years. All the companies that became the multi-billion-dollar ones all did so by writing one gold medal product, not by being the one-stop shop. They became that later. Every example I found, they picked their one product. They had the discipline to be the best at that thing. Then I told you to find your gold medal talent and make sure that you and your company are not doing things that don't require your talent. By the way, I'll tell you the day I learned that. I have a friend who's a heart surgeon, cardiac surgeon. We were going to have lunch, and I went, and she said, the receptionist said he's in his office. And I went in his office, and he was sitting there, and he was online, and he was frustrated. I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm installing a new appointment scheduling system. I said, wait, you're installing it? He said, well, I own the practice. And I said, but you're a heart surgeon. Why are you doing this? And he said, I said, why don't you just hire a tech person? And he said, because that costs money. And I said, let me understand. When you do a heart surgery, you make like $150,000 in profit. And he said, correct. And I said, and you spend probably how many hours a week doing IT stuff, right? And he said, well, I don't have to hire people. I do it myself. And I was like, okay, so let's say we hired a $60,000 a year employee that freed up 10 hours a week for you, times 5 more surgeries, which is, I mean, you already see where this is going. What are you doing? Do the thing you're good at and stay away from everything else as a business and as a person. We now have him doing heart surgeries all day, and he has a staff. He only does the thing that is his gold medal talent the best that he can. Oops. And then I told you before I come to that, and then we talked about finding your brand asset, which is the one single, your aircraft steel. Find the one single most important reason. And then I told you to find out what question you are the answer to. Everyone in your company should be able to answer that. If you walk around and ask people that work for you, what question are we the answer to? If everybody doesn't give you the same answer, you don't have a brand yet. That's where you need to get to, because that's what causes people you never marketed to hear about you and to start calling you. And then last we ended with brand personality. And now I just want to give you one kind of closing piece of advice here. Probably the most important thing I've learned in my whole life, which is this: don't chase money, chase excellence, because money follows excellence. Let me tell you why I'm telling you that. Because I see all these businesses are focusing, all they're talking about is money all day long and profits. Everything about trying to make money. And here's the problem with that. You are so distracted by the focus on money that is preventing you from doing the only thing that's ever going to get you paid, which is achieving excellence. In the world, in the startup world, everybody always talks about what's your exit strategy. And I have to tell you guys something. Every time I hear that, I'm like, what are you exiting? Your PowerPoint? What do you mean exit strategy? What I want to know is, what's your entrance strategy? Why are you worrying about an exit for a company that's not even there yet, that hasn't even achieved its prominence? I was the one that never had an exit strategy. I always had an excellence strategy. What I told my team was, let's just be heads down focused on creating something amazing in the world. Until and unless you create amazing, you ain't getting paid anyway. But the irony is that I was the one that never had an exit strategy. When everyone would ask what the exit strategy is, I would say, why don't you go ask someone else, because I'm busy trying to build excellence. I'll talk to you someday. And I was the one that, I've done 8 startups. 2 of them were horrible ideas and miserable failures. But I will tell you that of the other 6, 3 were acquired and 3 went to IPO. Because we had an exit strategy? No, because we had an excellence strategy. We don't talk about the exit, we talk about the excellence. Be heads down focused on creating an amazing company. And my doorbell just kept ringing. Can we buy your company? It's not for sale. Well, your company is amazing and we want to buy it. I never was focused on selling anything. I was just trying to build a company that could achieve excellence. So please, don't chase money. Please chase excellence. Thank you guys. Again, I apologize for people that had to stand. Thank you for spending the time. I know that it's lunch now, so people are free to go, but I don't mind if anybody has any questions. People want to go, you can go. We're technically done, but I don't mind staying because there's not something in here right now. If anybody has any questions, you can raise your hand. Yeah, I'll repeat the question. Okay. If you were to talk to yourself at 30 years old, what advice would you give? So his question was, what advice would you give to yourself many years ago? And unfortunately, the answer was the whole talk I gave yesterday, which would have been, I would have realized that I can't do any of these things myself, and I need a rock star team. That's the advice I wish I had back then, was that it's not about you, it was never about you, it was always about the team. I was trying to be Mr. Entrepreneur. What I should have been was Mr. Servant Leader, and I should have been going out and finding those people sooner. I wish I had known that then, because too often founders think it's about them. You're the one being interviewed, you're the one everybody's glorifying, but in fact, you'll never get there without finding people smarter than you. I wish I'd known that earlier. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll break for lunch. Go ahead, just shout it out loud. Okay, so the question, thank you. The question was, how do you know who your target customer was? And the answer is, you don't, they do. So instead of you sitting in your conference room talking about the customer, let them speak for themselves. That is why I posted the thing that I posted just the other day, that Dan Cathy, the billionaire owner of Chick-fil-A, if you see the picture I posted, we were outside on the street. He was wearing a shirt that says, "My name is Dan," and it was a Chick-fil-A employee shirt. And we were walking down the street, and he was talking to people about chicken sandwiches. They think he's a sweet old man that works for Chick-fil-A. They have no idea that he is a $10 billion owner of the entire thing. Getting out of your office and going out into the customer base. By the way, Sam Walton taught me that too. Sam Walton told me that he used to sneak out of town and go across town, cross the tracks into small town America, and he would wear like what they were wearing, work boots and overalls, and he would sit in the cafe all day, and he would buy farmers apple pie and just talk to them. He said, they helped me design the first big box retailer ever in small town America. So I will tell you guys, every company I've ever had, every other Friday, I'm out of my office. I mentioned it earlier, I'm in a grocery store talking to moms about family vacation. Get out of your office, go spend time with the customers. Only they know who your customer are. All you're doing is guessing until you literally get a chance to ask them.
Hi.
Oh, okay, he has the mic. We'll bring it up to you.
I have the microphone. Yeah. Quick question. If you are in an early stage and you have a limited amount of money and you have to choose to invest in marketing or sales force, what would it be for you?
I'm not sure, because that line, the line between sales and marketing is, like this. It's not a straight line between them. Early on, that's kind of hard to answer, because I'm not sure I would invest in either of those early. I think I would invest in something. Well, here's my answer. It's only one person's opinion. You don't have to listen to this. Plus, it's worth the amount you're paying for this advice right now. I would invest, and it's not even customer discovery, I would invest in customer intimacy. Customer discovery is doing a survey of moms that plan vacations on SurveyMonkey or something like that. Customer intimacy is putting on your jeans, spending the whole day in the store and talking to moms who just think you're a dad planning a vacation. I would invest my time way more in customer intimacy, because then when I came back, I'll give you a real quick example. Originally, when we did a survey, you guys will like this. This is the learning. We did a survey and we said, for family vacation, who plans family vacation? And I'm just not trying to offend anybody, I'm telling you the real results. You know what happened? Men said, I'm the man of the house. I make the decisions. I plan family vacation. So guess what we did based on the survey? We were marketing to men. But then I went out, and when we'd find these men one-on-one, I'd say, so what's the plan for vacation? And he would look both ways and he'd say, I don't know, ask my wife. And we're like, dude, on the survey, he said, I know it was a survey. And he said, but the truth is, I have no idea. She plans everything. She's better at it than me. So guess what? We were completely off. So now I went in grocery stores and I just started talking to moms. When you guys, Labor Day is coming up. What are you guys doing for the holiday? Oh, we think we're going to take a trip to Niagara Falls. And I was like, really? How does that? I'm just talking to people. How do you plan your trip? How much can you spend? Just chatting with people. We were completely wrong by believing the surveys that men were planning it. Mom plans the family vacation statistically. We had to change all our marketing. So we shouldn't have done marketing first. We should have done customer intimacy first. Thank you. That was a good question. Sir?
Yes. Should I be adjusting my my brand to reflect changes, my personality brand to reflect changes?
Yeah, I mean,
in the market?
I think the mistake that some companies have made was never making that change. They never changed their brand, right? We now have a Gen Z customer. Andre, I'm looking at you, dude. We have a whole different customer base that believes different things, that shops in a different way, that consumes information from different sources, right? So if you're not changing a lot of things about your company, including your personality, to recognize that customer, you have alienated them. They're like, literally, I've seen companies that today's buyer is like, you're not talking to my dad, you're talking to me, because you're talking to me like I'm my dad and I'm not. That's what they're feeling, because you made no change in the way that you speak to customers and that personality. So my answer is yes. Over time, personalities have to adapt. By the way, if you've seen Priceline commercials, Priceline tried to remove William Shatner, because it's been all these years, but all the people my age went nuts. We love him. However, we got to an age where you ask kids, I would ask young people, who is Captain Kirk from Star Trek? And they said, Chris Pine or Picard? I was like, no, that's not Captain Kirk. And then you'd say William Shatner, they'd say never heard of him. So what the company did was get another high-tech kind of person, and it's Penny from Big Bang Theory. So if you turn on a commercial now, there's a young woman from a hip, cool show that also does the ads. Why? Because the personality had to adapt to the new consumer. They actually can identify with Penny from Big Bang, but they don't even know who William Shatner is. You do have to make adjustments as the world adjusts. Claudia. Okay. So Claudia's launching a new tequila, and she's asking about you're asking about in the category.
It's not a tequila, it's a sotori. And no one knows what sotori is. So I spend my time in my brand or in the category, educating people about the category.
Okay, so her question is she should work more on the brand or more on the category education so that people know what it is. I think that you got it right, that the category first, so you know how to position the brand. The more, we're back to customer discovery. The more time you're out of your office and educating people and asking them and listening to them, that will help you shape the brand when you're out there discussing the category with people. So I would spend that time in the category first, and people will tell you, and you'll understand what stuff they don't seem to get, that you don't understand why they don't get it. It'll help you shape the brand after that. I would do the brand second and the category education first. I hate to hold everybody up. Let's do one or two more if there are. I only heard the first half. Did we lose the mic? Oh. So were you just planning to take that home? The mic? Okay.
When relying on finding your greatest brand attribute, can you rely on product reviews, or do you need to kind of have the at-time purchase?
Okay,
like
so it's all of the above. You should consume, you should digest all of that is the answer. Product reviews matter too. It all matters. But keeping in mind that product reviews are a completely different thing than a casual conversation that isn't a product review and it isn't a sales pitch. A product review, someone knows everyone's going to read it. They're there to make a point. Most of the people that do product reviews a lot of them are just upset, and it doesn't represent your product. It's an edge case, right? I actually loved what somebody did with a product review. I saw a sign the other day. It was in New York, and it said, "Come in and try the world's worst coffee according to one woman on TripAdvisor." I think that's brilliance. One woman said they had the world's worst coffee. So on their sign it said, "Come in, try the world's worst coffee." And in parentheses it said, "according to one woman on TripAdvisor." That's turning it around. But they were looking at the reviews. They don't have the world's worst coffee. So I think ingest all of that information before you make those decisions.
What is one thing that you think is true about the world that the majority of people don't?
One thing that's true about the world
that you think is true that the majority of people don't?
You might actually like this answer. It's that young people are way the hell smarter than people my age are giving them credit for. You would be amazed at how many. I spent a lot of time. This morning I wasn't here. I was at a youth entrepreneurship thing. So I left the conference to go do that this morning. I spent a lot of time in schools, and we completely, not only are these young people the next generation of buyers, but we don't even ask them their opinion. So obviously that changes as you go down the youth scale, but we don't, young people aren't invited to board meetings, and you know what? Maybe they should be, right? Because guess what none of us predicted? Social media. We didn't even predict mobile devices. We missed so many things that if we gave more respect to the opinions of young people about the world around them, how it works and how they think it's going to work and how they want it to work, we'd be a lot farther ahead. So that's just one, but I'm glad that you asked that. I spent a lot more time asking young people questions.
Hey, Jeff.
Okay, last question.
Yeah. You talked about young people. When you were a young person, you had 4 hustles: candy, newspaper, T-shirts,
Yes.
concert. Where'd you learn the most? Which one was the most powerful?
For me?
For you.
Actually, so I was the kid. The most powerful was door to door. But I will tell you guys what I was doing. I played every sport. And I grew up with a single mom who had 4 jobs and 4 kids and 3 jobs. We never had money. So I never wanted to pressure my mom when it was time for football shoes. Right now it's football season. I need new shoes. So I was trying to find ways to pay for them myself. And the answer to your question, and I'll tell you why, was I had a door-to-door hustle. So I will tell you one of the stories which you might have heard me say. I went on my street, I went down and I knocked on a door. And now I grew up in the Arizona desert. So a lot of people had garages, but not all the garages, they were carports. They didn't all close, right? And even though it was called a garage, it was just an open carport. So I went down to a neighbor and I knocked on the door and he answered. And on a Saturday late morning, and he said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I just wanted to let you know your garage is embarrassing." He said, "Wait, what?" I said, "Your garage, it's embarrassing. It's just like filled with junk for everyone to see." And he's like, "You rang my doorbell to tell me my garage is embarrassing?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he's like, "Why would you do that?" And I said, "Because it needs cleaning." Well, then the wife yells, "Who's at the door?" And he said, "I think it's that kid from down the street." And she said, "What do you need?" And she thought I might be coming to borrow something for my single mom. And I said, "I was just letting your husband know that your garage is embarrassing." And he's like, "Tell this kid to take a hike." And she's like, "I've told him for 2 years to clean that garage." And he said, "It's hot as hell." And I said, "I'll do it, and I'll do it right now." And the wife said, "I don't even care what the price is. Just do it, because he's never going to do it." So when I started knocking on door, I cleaned the whole garage out. And he told her how much to pay me, and she doubled it and said, "Don't tell my husband how much I really paid you to do this." But the more interesting part was the more I went door to door and talked to people, the more I learned about how to sell to people. That's why delivering newspapers as a kid, that didn't help me. Everyone's asleep. But when I was going door to door and talking to people, I engaged in conversations and I started to learn, who do I talk to, what do they value, what will they pay for, and how do I sell it to them. Thank you guys very much. We need to clear out of the room.